Hello, my name is Julia Espinoza. My mentor's name is Kathy Doe, and I'm presenting from Richmond, California. So, today I'm going to be discussing the effects of excessive screen use on the development of emotional temperament and inattention in children below ages 7. I decided to choose this topic because, as I assume many of us have heard, the criticism towards the increasing use of technology and how that has negatively impacted adults and teenagers in their mental health and learning abilities. And I wanted to see how this would impact our younger generations being children, and how entertainment such as Cocomelon and other young content creators have specifically targeted these young audiences who should not have screen use daily at all. And I wanted to see how it would impact them differently and whether the effects would be short term or long term. So, before we get into the effects of excessive screen use, I wanted to get into what is considered excessive screen use. So, studies pre COVID have shown by the American Academy of Pediatrics that children below the ages of 2 with any screen use at all would be considered excessive, and children between the ages of 2 and 5 exceeding 1 hour on the daily would be excessive screen use. And although it doesn't specify between the ages of 5 and 7, based on this data, I would conclude that screen use or like their recommended screen use wouldn't exceed 2 hours. And here on this bar graph was gotten from one of the research papers I used for my review paper. And here it just separates ages 3 and 5, 3 being in orange, red being 5-year-olds, and you can kind of see the increase between 30 minutes to an hour in screen use. Looking at what is considered excessive screen use and the temperamental issues, looking at a collection of studies, I was able to see that more than 2 hours from ages 5 had increasing externalizing issues in comparison to those who had less than 30 minutes. And from a different study, a group of children who exceeded 4 hours on the daily, ages 2 to 5, and this information was collected from a parent questionnaire, had higher emotional mobility, and the questionnaire regarded their emotional reactivity, self-regulation, being able to assess their surroundings and how to properly react to it, coming into hand with tantrums and their communication abilities. And here is just kind of like a graph on how their temperamental issues are being affected with their mindfulness, management, communication, and impulse. And then when it comes to attentional abilities, although the majority of the data does indicate attentional difficulties and impairing children's learning mechanisms, which begin to be crucial at this age as they to begin to integrate into classroom environments like preschool, kindergarten, and first grade, there is of a known method called the attention restoration theory, which, although it doesn't completely reverse the damage, it does minimize the severity in a way as it helps damage done in the long term, and it improves and restores their attention if that's of something someone is looking for. And on another note, there was data showing a positive relationship with selective attention. And this is kind of due to like faster paced games and the hand eye coordination. But the rest of the attention types, such as executive, sustained, and divided, showed no positive relations, essentially still harming their cognitive skills. And then when looking at both and comparing both, as that was the objective of my study, we concluded that temperament is much more greatly affected than the attention abilities in excessive screen use. When it comes to emotional regulation, it becomes much more difficult to break, such as when it comes to tantrums, how children react to different situations and others. And in some cases, parents may try to treat these kinds of symptoms by increasing their screen use, which in a way just makes it a much more vicious cycle. And in comparison to attention difficulties, their selective attention showed a positive relationship, and there is of a known method that is able to restore attentional abilities. Although attention difficulties are still affected, it is just not like all the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Julie. I appreciate it. Okay, so we have some questions that have come in on the Q&A. How did you get interested in this topic?
I think I was interested in this just because I saw the increase in like how teenagers and adults were affected through the pandemic. And as the screen increase, like really, I feel like this was like really known like on the news and like it was brought up in school how mental health and like the stigma kind of just like not completely went away, but I feel like awareness was brought a lot towards mental health and like um, the learning environment. I just wondered how COVID impacted the younger generation, and I do have like nieces and smaller cousins, and I was like, I saw them using iPads and the iPad kids. I don't know if you guys have like seen those. So I was like, how does that impact them? And at a younger age, I wanted to see how that could impact them differently. And although we are a little bit older, and I know it does still affect us similarly, I feel like at a younger age, it's much more severe because they still have a lot to grow. So
Yes.
that's just kind of what interested me in it.
Oh, yes, I have seen kids as young as like 18 months knowing how to scroll. And
Yeah.
that's just very interesting. So what question would you pose to this field to continue your work, your investigation? If somebody else was going to work on this, what question would you give them?
Question, I feel like maybe just seeing where or like the spike in like the um how do I say this? Purchase in like technology devices and kind of like in what regions, kind of coming into like economic or like social, like demographic, and see if that
Interesting.
like shows a different trend.
Hmm, interesting. Yeah. Do you plan to continue in this area when you go to college?
I think I plan to go towards like the neuroscience path, kind of just like the brain, and like emotional or like psychology path. I'm still debating, but somewhere around there, yeah, and in research.
Okay, then the last question is, did you learn anything unexpected, like that came out of your research?
Yeah, I think just the patterns and of screen use, like one of the studies were like exceeding 4 hours, and I feel like these children are like very young to be, spending 4 hours on a screen.
Yeah, that is interesting.